episode 4 of Just Local, and I'm joined with a special guest today, Councillor Richard Morris, who, if you live in Droitwich, Pershore or Evesham, you've probably seen a lot of Richard. I certainly have seen a lot of Richard because we're involved in a couple of projects ourselves. And today, before I introduce you to Richard, I just want to kind of set the scene. So I live in Droitwich by myself, and Wychavon, as you'll know, is the local authority, and there's a lot of positive things coming. So I think this episode is going to be quite interesting for listeners to watch and hear about what's going to be coming to Droitwich, Evesham, Pershore, or anywhere else you can share, but just what's to come. So thank you for coming along, Richard.
It's great to be here, Matt. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So your official title currently, Richard, what is your official title? Because I've been searching, there's a few different titles. But
Well, overall, I'm Councillor Richard Morris, so I'm Councillor for Droitwich South East for District, and Councillor for Droitwich West for County. So then I've got a portfolio position at Wychavon for economic growth and tourism, but cabinet position at County for adult social care.
Right. Okay. So there's quite a bit to unpack there. Then. So lots of different hats then. And so you live in Droitwich yourself?
I do live in Droitwich. I lived there for a long time. In fact, since I was 14, and I'm an old bloke now.
Yeah.
So, but then went off to uni and then back. So I love the town. I feel passionate about the town, and that's why I do what I do largely. So. Yeah,
that definitely comes out in a lot of the projects you're involved with, and it's a rewarding role, I assume, as well, for everything you're kind of seeing, the successes and bits and pieces that are taking place.
It is rewarding. It's horrendously frustrating as well.
Right.
I'm from the private sector, so getting into the public sector can be really, really frustrating with the time lapse and the slowness and all the different stakeholders trying to get decisions and trying to move things forward.
Yeah.
But having that private sector knowledge enables me to critique, challenge, and try and push. Where I can in terms of trying to move things forward.
So what is that background then, the private sector work that you're doing before?
Private sector, I was National Marketing Manager for a FTSE 100 company. Everyone knows who they are, Yellow Pages.
Right.
That was my bag, Yellow Pages. So I ran the marketing team there for new initiatives and new products going to market. Ran a team across the UK, moving from a planning team as well, involved with the strategic plans for the area. But then in 2008, took redundancy. Possibly wasn't a good thing to do at that time, but I thought I would move on to marketing elsewhere. But because I'd actually gotten a master's degree with Yellow Pages support, I had that on my CV. Reeds picked me up, and I went to work for Worcester Tech locally here, in their for their business department, and I taught A-level business and A-level economics. The Worcester Tech were really, really good, loved the environment, and they then said, well, if you stay and you don't leave us, we'll take you through your PGCE. So I stayed with them, and I got my PGCE.
Right.
I actually became head of A-levels there, and then they decided that they didn't have the funding or the capacity to do A-levels, so I was redundant again, and then worked for a Cambridge Education Group at Coventry University. So my transfer from private sector to public sector was fully established then.
Yes. So what were the challenges back then when you were working for Yellow Pages then? So 2008, was it people were still very active in the Yellow Pages? Or was it starting to go online for searches? Or
it was starting to go online, and we had Yale.com emerging. Before that, we had electronic Yellow Pages, which we were investing in as a trial to get through. They were very much involved in printed. They owned a lot of the printing companies for Yellow Pages in America and Spain and so forth. So they became quite global in terms of their activity. Japan, Turkey as well. And we had a chief exec then who was very much about growing in the printed publishing world.
Right.
So our electronic area often got squeezed.
Did it?
We did get Yale.com.
Yeah.
They should have made decisions at that time.
Yeah. There was the time to back that other horse then, wasn't
Instead of Google, they could have been Yale, and everyone could have been yelling. Yeah, and that was their decision at that time. They could have been, I'm not saying they could have been Google, but they could have been well on their way.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, well. It's our fortune, though. We're lucky to have you in Droitwich. So
that's one of my case studies for strategic planning.
Is it really?
Yeah.
just the process and how it's all gone.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Wychhaven then. Well, let's talk about the list of job titles that you have in the different roles. For people listening or watching this, what's the driver now for what you're doing? What's your real kind of purpose to working in these locations and for the county and also Wychhaven?
In terms of Wychhaven, I've always enjoyed the economic brief. That's my background and that's my area, to try and help tourism, to try and get visitor numbers, try and move the area of Wychhaven forward. I do some work for the LGA, Local Government Authority, and a lot of areas don't know Wychhaven because it's a made-up name. So you have to really explain who they are. They've got good recognition because they're considered very highly as a council, but in terms of what we do, then you have to do a bit more explanation. From Hartlebury down to Broadway, it's quite an expansive area and has some beautiful countryside and villages and area in total. But to try and give it an uplift in terms of the economy, that we border Stratford with Shakespeare, we border the Malverns with the hills.
Yep.
What is really our area known for? It is that rural beauty.
Yep.
Broadway has its own brand and is very well known, but how do we transfer that into the rest of Wychhaven and try and get the support? And the town prospectus really came from that. In 2019, our then Chief Executive Jack Hegarty, in discussion with the then leader, Bradley Thomas and the exec board, we knew we weren't able to get the Towns Fund from government, but we knew we had ailing and struggling town centres as well. Mm-hmm. So Jack's discussion with Bradley was, well, how do we actually move our towns forward? We need to really get some investment prospectus for each of the towns. So prior to COVID, this was underway. And then during COVID, that gave us a lot of the time to do the consultations, so a lot of online consultations with key stakeholders and key townspeople involved. And we established 3 investor prospectus for Droitwich, Pershore and Evesham, really highlighting what we have. And there's some really incredible history and assets in each of those towns, but what also we can build to. Setting a kind of template, it's not an actual document of saying this is what it's going to be. It's kind of trying to pick out and show some areas of potential or ability, but also naming game changer sites that we believe with outside investment coming in, we can make a considerable difference to the towns.
Yep.
And so there's a kind of strategic outward perspective, a macro perspective, but then a micro of what really is it about these towns that we can get moving and get really some success with. And that's where the place boards come in. So establishing 3 place boards in each of the towns with brilliant chair people, and we do have 3 brilliant chairs, to try and look at what I would call the low-hanging fruit, but also not trying to belittle that role. They also have a role of motivating and cajoling the community into what more could actually be achieved, and trying to press those buttons of what should we really be doing and what can we do to really make a success of the area.
Yeah, you're right. It's an honour to kind of be in the position of being the chairman of our place board in Droitwich, and yeah, you're right. We've got Darren, we've got Tom over in Evesham and Pershore respectively as well, and they're all different groups. We have different ideas, but the great thing about the place board, for those that haven't heard about it, it's available online. You can go on the Wychhaven website to see it and see who takes part, but it's a lot of local Droitwich people. There's some councillors representing, there's Wychhaven people involved as well, place projects officer and place projects manager, and we meet every single month. We do a lot of work in between. There's a lot of kind of ideas that are discussed. Again, this prospectus really did help, because before I took the position to join as the chairman, I wanted to have a read of this. I wanted to kind of know, you kind of walk past these things all the time. You don't really think about how much of an asset they could be. But the Lido project, which we'll touch upon first, that's quite a significant project that's right now underway, isn't it? So do you mind just taking the listener through the kind of the journey on that?
Well, the Lido in the consultation came in for Droitwich, came out as the jewel. That came out top of what people see Droitwich for, and the the area that they're most proud of, probably, as
Yep.
the area within the town. Acknowledging as well that we don't have a brine baths at the moment, so it's actually what is there that people are most proud of. Brine baths plays a significant role as well in terms of the whole picture of Droitwich and what it can, what it should and can deliver. But the Lido itself, we know, is a pearl. We know it's considered one of the top Lidos in the country. I think in a Telegraph report it was fifth or something, but it's one of the top. And to anyone who goes there, they know if they're in the Lido and they're looking out, it's splendour, isn't it? You've got the canopy of trees,
Yep.
the whole blue kind of lagoon of creation there. It is quite stunning. And we know it could be built. Ideally, we'd like Droitwich to be the national Lido centre, for all Lidos. But we need to build gradually to get to that. So the consideration is, how do we enhance what we have there? And the work of the Place Board's been superb in that, in working with Capital One and trying to re-engineer the whole purpose and the whole idea of a Lido and what Droitwich Lido can be.
So just to take the listener down the journey, so the Place Board got together, with this funding that they have, UK Shared Prosperity Funding, they committed to a feasibility study for what could be done with this place. So it's the Lido pool itself, it's the Art Deco building that's attached to it, it's all the kind of the curtilage and all the land that goes with it, looking at car parking as well with Wychavon. So the feasibility study took us down the journey. We had 3 or 4 different options sent to us, and you'll remember, Richard, we saw some fantastic ideas, but they were very expensive. They were going to cost a fortune to run, and really, I think that's again probably where I enjoyed the part with the Place Board, that you've got some very clever people in the room who are kind of going, but do we really want plunge pools, and do we need to have those jacuzzis and saunas? Because ultimately, it made us ask the question of Wychavon Leisure who would be operating it in the future, and the feedback came back, no, do you know what? They aren't going to actually add any value. They'll be costly to run. If they break, it's going to be expensive. So just if you can, the option that's now being discussed at the moment, by the time this goes out, it might have already been, the date might have passed, the 15th of December probably will have passed. But what's the end result, do you think? What's going to be on offer with the feasibility study?
Well, you're right. We're in consultation at the moment to the 15th of December. But there's a big wow over the plans. It's been presented so well in terms of all the imagery and what it's going to deliver. So the Art Deco building, which is historical in its own right, we will look to extend 2 wings, we call it effectively, on the side, and that is to allow access and some stairway and lift up to the top area. The top area that's been redundant for some time now. It used to be a kids' nursery in some days gone by, but it's been redundant. But that would be turned, we hope, into a restaurant, a high-class restaurant. Yep. But the brilliance of that, it will have view over the Lido, but also a view over Heriot's Pool. And one of the significant things that we've been told by consultants and everyone is we've turned our back on that pool. Right. And it is a really attractive pool. So the restaurant will allow that kind of 360 perspective in terms of the assets that we have in Lido Park to view. There will also be downstairs some spa activity and operation as well to support that offer. But then moving round, there will be a brine pool. So that will be really what many people in Droitwich are looking forward to and hoped that would be encompassed in it. And it makes total sense that we include a brine pool with the Lido offer, to really maximise on the synergy that those 2 offers can have. So the brine pool will be unique and really about Droitwich. Then moving round, I think with the support of Wychavon Leisure, we're going to develop the changing rooms as well. And then moving to the end towards the tennis courts, of people who Droitwich will know what I mean, is going to be the new cafe. Yep. And that will be really improved and a great offer, and more central to the park as well. Yep. And nearer to a new public wet play area as well. So it's going to have a real good location right on that top corner there for all people within the park.
Yeah, and then there's going to be the free-to-use splash pads going back into the park as well, going down towards the tennis court. So they'll be available for people who aren't paying to use the Lido. There'll still be wet play areas for people. But this area to the south, say the south, like the bottom end of the actual development is going to be a lot more room on the ground. It's the sunny area. It's somewhere that at the moment you can see on a sunny day that place is rammed and there's nowhere to stand or sit or lie down. So we're actually going to get some more space out of this as well, aren't we, with the project?
Yeah, you're taking in the public wet play area as it is now, but the recreation area within the Lido would be brilliant. I should add as well, the whole entrance is going to be reviewed too.
Yes.
So it'll be more noticeable that there is a Lido in Droitwich. People won't be able to pass without knowing it. But then the whole entrance for the car park, but more importantly, the walkway through, will be much more enhanced, and it will walk alongside the Heriots Pool to really, again, take advantage of that view. And
I should say and go on record that it's been fantastic to work with SOBS on this as well, isn't it? Because we wanted to consult with those. SOBS is our Save Our Brine Baths group that are based in Droitwich. They've been trying, I think it's 12 or 15 years they've been going for it.
I always say since the Brine Baths went, they've kept the heartbeat alive. Yeah. Without SOBS, it may have drifted into memory and drifted into history. Yeah. Without SOBS, they've kept that heartbeat alive, that the brine baths are so important to Droitwich. Yeah,
fantastic. And we've obviously wanted to consult with them because this is something we want to be a real success in Droitwich, and obviously with their involvement and their knowledge, it's been superb. They actually took us down to another venue the other day to go and experience some like Dead Sea-esque brine experience, and it was fantastic. Bobbing along. Yeah, I was floating. I was floating. I fell asleep. No, I didn't. There's no tea trays or anything like that going through. But it was a surreal experience. There was one moment where we're in this massive. There's like 5 of us in this big pool. It's actually very shallow. It's about 50 centimetres deep. But you lay on your back and you close your eyes, and there was like twinkly stars above you, and you just slowly start to like do a bit of a cyclone. You slowly go round, but then just as you're about to drift off, you knock into someone, and then you're like, oh, back in the room. But no, it's really, really good. And I never experienced brine in Droitwich, so I've never been to a brine bath. I've never been to a brine pool. So did you? Were you? Yeah. So explain it to the listeners, because we're going to talk about Rick Mail that most of our listeners have never heard about in a moment as well. But what's it like, that brine experience? What was the difference?
It is totally amazing. You go into the pool and your legs will not stay down. They're being lifted, up all the time, and the only way you can be is effectively on your back, because the pressure of the water and the density of the salt, just lifts your legs up, and for therapy that is supposed to be superb, because you are going to relax.
Yeah, definitely. I was in the consultation appointments that we did over at the library, and a couple of physiotherapists came in, and they were hydrophysiotherapists, I think that's right, but they used to work at the brine bath, and they were so excited because they haven't been able to do that since obviously the brine bath's closed, and they really do realise that this could be a game changer again for Droitwich in terms of getting that. And yes, there'll be the pool for the tourist. Yes, there'll be a great thing for people who live in Droitwich to come and use, or obviously neighbouring towns and cities. But also it is going to open up for the kind of the medical purposes behind it, and the rehab, the therapy. Because I gather Manchester United used to come to Droitwich to use the old brine baths, and there used to be...
The England cricket team did, and lots of them. Yeah, I was a Yorkshire cricket fan. Shouldn't say that when I'm in Worcestershire, should I?
Sorry, we'll let you off.
But in the old days, they had a fast bowler called Chris Old, who played for England. He was superb, and he came to Droitwich to take the brine baths and so forth. So yeah, it was well known and well used.
And the difference, I should be able to reel this off myself, but the difference is obviously the brine is under the ground in Droitwich, whereas some of these other spas that we visited, they're having to kind of like get the salt in essentially to put it into the water, and the compound and the makeup's slightly different. So can you, sorry to put you on the spot, but can you say what the difference is going to be, because it's in Droitwich, it's actually in our ground as well?
Yeah, the pumps are at the Lido, and the brine is fed from Tower Hill, which is probably the main pump in Droitwich in terms of the extraction of the brine. But then it feeds along to the Lido, and then fed. They'll measure the amount, but fed into the Lido pool itself, but now into the brine pool.
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. So I wrote down some questions, and I'm kind of like dancing around most of them anyway. But let's talk about Placeboard again, if that's okay. You've obviously seen some significant projects underway now, but is there a particular favourite that you think so far the Placeboard has achieved? Is there anything like from the list that the guys have put together that you think is a real win so far? Like you say, low hanging fruit is sometimes the best part, really. That a very small thing that was affordable and something we could do quite quickly, but it has a big impact. Is there anything you can think of?
There's many, and what I do congratulate you and thank you for the way that you chair the meetings, but the group we have assembled really do gel and really do put their ideas forward. And if there is a difference, they're quite comfortable in airing that difference as well. And that there needs to be a suitable atmosphere in order and environment to do that. The one I'm going to pick on probably is low-hanging fruit, and that's the festoon lights, which is really odd, but I know that we used to have Christmas lights over the high street, and they used to be really, really appreciated and really well liked. Health and Safety said we could not do that. They said stringing lights across the high street had to be stopped.
Right. And
to get them back with the festoon lights, to get the survey, to challenge people that were saying no, to push back and say, no, this is what we want, I think is a massive success for the Place Board.
I'd agree, yeah.
And even though that may seem quite a light thing to do, it really does enhance the high street.
Without a doubt. I find myself sometimes, because we've now got the linear ones at the top as well, I just drive through the town now, and I think more people are doing that because it's a great time now, because you've got the Christmas lights on at the same time. And you're lighting up a high street that's got quirky buildings, the wonky high street, haven't we really, that people may have been to years ago but should definitely come back and see now. But when the lights are going across it as well, it's just a magical little place to be.
I think it's lifted the high street.
And safer as well, I think. People feel, I've heard comments that people feel a bit safer just knowing it's well lit, so that's a real positive. And I think there's lots of different things that we could have picked on. We've got the shopfront improvement grants that we've been able to offer, so we've been doing match funding for people that wanted to improve their shop fronts. I think we've had 3 successful projects already finished. We've got another 3 that are kind of pending, or maybe a bit further on when this releases. We've got the lights in the park. Obviously, we've done the lights down the side of,
which are really good.
Yeah, they've got bat hoods on, so they're not going to light the whole sky up because they're not allowed to for the bats. But it does make it a little bit safer again. You kind of know which way you're going. You're not walking on the mud. You're not walking on the grass. So
and that's been told we'll have Vines Park by March, so that's good as well.
That's it. Yeah, it's coming. Definitely, we're going to bring it to Vines Park, and then we've got the health corridor, which is
that will be great.
Yeah,
that'll be superb.
And this one is feeling a little bit closer than anything else at the moment. So I believe they're doing Coney Meadow, which is work to improve the reed beds in Coney Meadow first, which is something we found out when we toured with Canal and Rivers Trust, that it needed to be improved. So they've started work with that, Wychavon CRT, and now the next project will be 4.3 kilometre stretch from Salwalp Road all the way down to Ladywood Lock, and I believe it's going to start in spring, hopefully be finished in autumn.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed, and toes.
Yeah. But again, that I don't think that was mentioned in the prospectus, but that's the beauty of our group, really, that some of these ideas had been discussed in a former group that I was part of called Droitwich Means Business, and I need to nod to those guys as well, because some of the things that we are bringing forward, they might not have been put in the prospectus originally, but actually they're things that people were talking about. So it's just But
that's a key point, Matt, is that not everything is in the prospectus. The prospectus gives an idea and raises certain issues, but if they can be triggered and developed, then that's brought benefit. That's Without the whole idea of it.
And I spoke at the Civic Society's monthly meeting the other day, and I did a bit of a presentation on what the Place Board's all about and kind of what we're hoping to do. And it was lovely, actually. A couple of people spoke to me at the end with their ideas, and these are ideas that we haven't discussed yet. Yet now already with Wychavon, we put the people in the right place, and they're all in touch with each other. So some natural kind of like planting and gardens and bits and pieces along the health corridor are now being discussed. So it's really exciting. And actually, if anyone is in Droitwich, then do reach out to Richard or myself, because your feedback, your ideas, they are really important to us. I think there's a bit of a driver for active travel now. I think people want to feel that they can use the bike or go on foot, instead of having to take the car, and that's obviously going to be a great thing for our town if we can have people doing that. So all of these ideas, they are listened to if you come forward with them, definitely. You were wearing a very red hoodie there, and it has a little logo on it that says the Rick Mail Comedy Festival. Now, I did mention to you just before we started filming that I'd mentioned about the Rick Mail Comedy Festival, and I had some blank expressions from my staff today. So my staff, not many of them are above 30 years old, so Rick Mail's not necessarily known to all of them, but would you mind, just for the listener, just take us through Rick Mail, how the comedy festival's come about, and what the plan is?
Of my age, Rick Mail was a comedy genius to many people, and he considered Droitwich as his family home. So I went to school with one of his sisters in the same class, lost contact since, but through another friend who had stayed friends with her. We've got the contact re-energised for the benefit of what we're trying to achieve here. Rick Mail was, I probably hadn't appreciated actually when I thought, well, what could we do for Rick Mail? How well he's regarded in terms of the comedy, in terms of how it's evolved comedy, and I looked back and tried to see what other comedians were saying about Rick, and when he sadly passed, the comments from people like Stephen Fry and Alexis Sales saying that he was a turning point for many people in terms of comedy, and the kind of in awe that other comedians had placed on him and sort of energised their careers. Somebody like Ben Elton, who
supporting the event, isn't he?
And talking to his sister as well, Ben and Rick got on really well, and Rick helped Ben a lot in terms of establishing his career and his comedic style. So Rick wasn't just selfish in his own talent; he was a giver to others to try and help others. And his background as well wasn't necessarily comedy. He liked Shakespeare. His first kind of performances were at the Norbury Theatre in Droitwich.
It's amazing, isn't it?
In Waiting for Godot, which isn't the easiest play because I studied it at A level. Right. But he appeared in Waiting for Godot. His parents were heavily involved with the Norbury. His dad wrote plays and pantomimes for the Norbury. And his siblings also performed there as well. But Rick was the one who harnessed that skill and that talent, and then went on. And people may know him from The Young Ones, which was his probably start in terms of his comedy performances, and then on to Bottom, New Statesman, and many other
Drop
things.
Dead Fred,
and Blackadder, and all that.
It's fantastic. It really is. And so this event then, the Rick Mail Comedy Festival, is on I think it's 31st of May to the 7th of June.
Brilliant.
Got my notes correct. And what can people expect with this first one? What's the plan? What's the because I've heard this, so I'm actually just asking you. So I'm excited already about this one, but. Tell the listeners what's going to happen. Well,
it centres around June. That's anniversary, unfortunately, of Rick's passing. But it was 10 years last year, so we'll be starting on his 11th in order to build up the whole capacity and opportunity we've got. The week long is going to be centred on the Norbury. So first and foremost, we decided that if we've got performances at the Norbury, then we have a festival. But it's grown beyond the Norbury, and we now have over 30 venues that have signed up to put performances on during that week. It doesn't have to just be comedy, it could be music, but anything to support the town and support the festival in that sense. Ranging from the Pamela May, so to have comedy just going up on a canal boat will be pretty unique, to the rugby club or the cricket club in larger areas. We're hoping to have good headlines at the Norbury Theatre, and then it will be open to townsfolk, amateur, possibly some names in the other areas as well. But the whole build-up, I've got a fantastic organising committee with some real talent that have come forward to try and support this initiative. So they're doing the work. They are fantastic.
They really are.
What they are achieving.
They came in and presented to the place board, and it was just the most complete presentation I think I've seen in a long time. And actually, it just got me excited. You had Dawn French saying her little clip. Just these people. I mean, he was that level and beyond. Like he was top of his game, wasn't he? When he was with us. So. Real shame to have him no longer with us. But just to remind you then, so that's the 31st of May to the 7th of June. If I was you, I'd start planning now. I'd start looking at accommodation. If you're going to move to the area, if you're going to come to the area for it, I'd start looking at those things now, because wherever you're going to be, it's going to be popular. I think it's going to be fantastic. So it's like a bit of a fringe festival then. There'll be just various acts going on. Norbury's going to be the main central hub for some of the acts.
The Norbury's the hub, and his family is saying if we've set a community and trust company up, but if we do achieve any profit from it effectively, that will go into Norbury Youth.
Brilliant.
So it's ploughed straight into the Norbury. The family are very keen that this is a community event first and foremost.
Yep.
Free to access as far as possible.
Yep.
And that any money is there to the benefit of the Norbury. That they very much see that Droitwich was their home. Droitwich was where Rick effectively honed his talent, and they want to pay that back.
So good, so exciting. You mentioned youth a minute ago, and my research today, I was, I think, following you on Facebook, or I saw on your Facebook page that there's a town centre youth club needed, which I agree, and we've talked about in the place board just recently. But could you just tell me a little bit more about that's being discussed at the moment, if there's any information to share? Or are you trying to see what the interest would be for a youth club?
I know the interest is there. The interest has been there for some time. Some listeners may remember back, we did have a youth club called the Youth Zone in the High Street. Viv Finlay, the hotel shop, was very gracious that she allowed us to use her building that was on the High Street as a youth zone. And that was immensely popular, but Viv needed it back for the hotel shop, and the rents became prohibitive as well. So we then moved to the bowling alley at the British Legion at that time, but that wasn't quite as central.
No.
And being attached to a licensed premises as well wasn't the best. Yeah. To try and untangle that wasn't that easy.
No.
So it fell flat, unfortunately, and also the funding wasn't as easy to attain. So we haven't had anything in the centre of Droitwich for some time for young people, and I feel that's a travesty. We know that younger people generally will group in the town centre, because when they're at school, their mates come from all over the place, and they see a town centre as the location where they can all meet up. More activities. So they'll congregate in Vines Park, they'll congregate at Lido Park, or just around the town. And they really need a sanctuary. They need somewhere where they can go, that they can repurpose as their own, just with some teas, drinks, vending machine, with some sofas, with some PCs perhaps, or access to do that. They just need somewhere where they can have. Where I've struggled for so long is a premises, an empty premises within the town centre. I think I could get something moving if we had a premise. I've put a call out for a premises before, nothing's happened. Whichever are on board, statutory wise, it's really a county function, but it's being delegated to the district. And whichever are doing their best to try and help move this forward. We're in discussion with some of the public assets within the town to see if we can release something to try and open up. But it's taken so long. It's so frustrating. The online petition now has 440 signatures, I believe. I've had 50, 60 letters from schools asking for a youth centre. The youth council themselves, they put as probably their number one target to get a town centre, youth provision. It's just not easy to achieve.
No. So is there anything that we can, as the public, support then? Obviously, more people signing up and coming forward with ideas, I guess, is part of it. But I'm looking for someone who can be a benefactor effectively and say, well, we don't really use that part of the building or that outbuilding at all. Could the youth use that in some ways? And my thinking along those lines is our side in Evesham, which is a superb youth setup. It was an outbuilding by one of the churches. It's not attached to the church, it's actually the other side of the graveyard from the church, but it was an outbuilding that they just gave to the young people of the town. Right. And it's a superb youth group that's been set up there. Oh, really? Oh, there we are then. So more exciting things, hopefully. And if anyone is listening or watching and they want to have a conversation with Richard, I'm sure he would be very, very keen to discuss.
Totally. Yes. It's what the young people deserve. It's what they need.
Yes. And I think the place board, in recent meetings, they kind of said supporting it would be obviously something they would like to do as well. And if there's any large businesses that have got, social responsibility money that they want to put together for something like this, we'd want to help alongside that as well, make sure that they've got a bit of a plan and have it all mapped out, really, I guess.
That would be superb.
Yeah.
That would be superb. The youngsters in previous kind of consultation I've done, they don't want to be in a church, and I can understand that. They don't want to be anywhere near the police station. I can understand that. They want somewhere that they can call their own, effectively.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to move on. There's only a couple more bits to talk about, but obviously we could be here all day, and I don't want to take any more of your time. But the train station, this is, there's the Friends of the Train Station, is it called? Friends
of the Train Station, which I helped set up some time ago. Can't remember when it was now. It was during COVID, I think. And the whole idea there was it's a model that's used right across the country, where friends or supporters come together and they try and enhance the proposition of the station. And the Friends, again, another superb small volunteer team.
Yep.
But they've developed planters for the station. They go regularly and do the planting, do the watering. They've supported a town map from Rosie Philpott,
yes,
which is quirky but really great to engage. They've got artwork from Droitwich Art Network and established artists up on the station as well. Right now, they've put their own Christmas trees up and snowmen up, which they've created themselves, and they've decorated effectively the station with that. And stations, they all look very much the same. It's how they make it unique and for Droitwich, to support the visitor attraction, and
it's to help people as well, isn't it? Because if you come to Droitwich, sometimes you kind of get off the train, you don't quite know which way you've got to go.
It can be awkward, can't it?
So it's to help and guide, and obviously you've got the underpass artwork that's been done as well. So the journey in's a little bit better, and we didn't talk about the placeboards project for the street art either. We've got street art that's going to be happening, so there'll be some of that as you come off the trains as well. That's going to be interesting to see how it takes shape.
The Friends team are superb as well, because they help many of the passengers. They will give them times of trains, they will help them on and off the train. That's not really what they were set up to do, but because they're there and that's their nature, that's what they will do.
Fantastic. No, we are very fortunate. I think, yes, whilst there's some projects and there's some tangible things you can see, there's a lot of groups that do a lot of good stuff. So Civic Society, History Society have just given us a lot of images that we've been able to wrap that shop window with that we saw the other day when the pictures came out. It just seems to be a really nice connected community in Droitwich, and I think that's one thing that we want to make sure we just really work with that and do what we can to support it. So is there any kind of big plans for 2025 that you can share with me? Obviously, I've got the Rick Mail Comedy Festival, that's a given, but is there anything that you've kind of got on your to-do list that you're working on that might not be public knowledge?
We will have another Edward Winslow Day.
Yes.
That'll be the 27th of November 2025. This year it was just a kick-off, but it was really successful in its own right. Edward Winslow was one of the forefathers that landed in America, again from Droitwich, but he was considered an unsung gentleman of those pilgrims, in the fact that he was probably a little more educated. He went to King's School, so he's bound to be educated, isn't he?
Awkward. Modus got yesterday.
He had a bursary, so he managed to get there. He was the son of a salt worker, so there's the Droitwich legacy there as well. But he was one of the first people to make friends with the indigenous people there, and he did that through food and through peace and sharing. And allegedly, the Smithsonian Institute date Thanksgiving Day back to him. So, because of the giving of food and the harmony and the sharing. So, what we've done is used Edward Winslow, and for Thanksgiving Day, we call it Edward Winslow Day in Droitwich.
Fantastic.
And it's getting interest in America as well now because of that, because they found it quite amazing that we would hoist the American flag on Thanksgiving Day in Droitwich, but have a Thanksgiving Day supper as well and a Thanksgiving Day service with Edward Winslow. Next year, again, I've got an organising group, but with all community groups, but we may develop it a bit more into a kind of Winslow festival. And the thought there is that he had 4 siblings, did Edward Winslow, and they all did great things.
Right.
So, and they're all of Droitwich. So we could widen it, and there's far more descendants as well from that.
Well, we do reach across the pond ourselves, because I've spent a bit of time out in America with the real estate agents out there. So I don't know if they'll know. It all comes back to our little town Droitwich, where it all began. So you're welcome. We're here.
We are the birthplace of many things.
We are. No, genuinely, and this as I said at the beginning, I want people to be excited about the plans, but also be proud of what we've got. Like we punch above our weight for a little town, to be fair. So we know we've got issues, we know we've got bits we want to work on, but at least there are the right people out there now.
And I would really
hope
in 2025 we have some solutions coming forward on the Raven. Yeah, I know that undermines many things that we try and achieve, because it's a historic building, a really grand building, and we need to get something moving. There is a legal order in place at the moment to try and get safety works established there. So can't say too much, but hopefully that's the starter of getting some improvement.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a shared view of the local population that needs to be done now, doesn't it? It's been a long time coming, and I think add that into everything else, the Lido Park, the health corridor, everything else we've got planned. It's going to be the next few years. If you're thinking of buying a house anywhere, Droitwich is going to be a good place to consider. Just making sure everyone knows that one. Finally, one question that I do ask our guests when they come in. What's the one thing you love about Worcestershire, or Droitwich? No, what's the one thing you love about Worcestershire that you think everyone should know about?
Gosh, that's a good question to put you on the spot, isn't it?
It is. I should have told you. I didn't want anything scripted, so I had to throw it in.
The one thing, it's going to sound cheesy, but I've got to go back to community. Yeah, I still feel with circa 24,000 people in Droitwich, you can still put your arms around it. Most community groups know each other. Most people that really want to help the community are known and really get involved, and through that united effort we achieve a lot more than I think is often given credit for, and just needs that motivation to carry on.
Yeah, really. You've got a lot of goodwill, and as you said, the community groups, they really do work together to get these things happening, and you never know, like now there's going to be a bit more momentum with these projects really kind of shaping, because the brine baths, as an example, is one thing that people have been trying for many years.
True. Yeah.
And it feels like it's in touching distance now. It does feel like we're not far away from getting what we want there. So it's been amazing having you on, Richard. I knew it was going to be one of those episodes that I didn't need to have many scripted questions, because I know how hard you work for the town, so I appreciate that, and I wanted to make sure that people know that these things don't just happen alone. Obviously, they need people like you to set up these groups in the first place. You actually began DMB for me. I don't know if you remember, we called it Droitwich Means Business, but you said to me and Viv Findlay, you two should get together. You should get a group of people together, and you should start thinking about what you could do for the town. And that started DMB. Well, it's 2016, 2017, I think that was now. But no, thank you from me. Thank you for coming on. And I'm going to do the classic thing you see in America now. So if you have liked this, please tick subscribe. I don't know what else I have to say. And follow us, because there will be more episodes coming. There may be Richard coming back on as well. When we get closer to the actual comedy festival kicking off, then we may get Richard back on so we can make sure everyone really knows what's happening. And thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for your time, Matt. It's been really enjoyable. And thank you for all you do too.
Happy to help. Cheers.
Thank you.